Hey, welcome. Are you interested in taking your small business or side hustle to a new level? If so, stick around. Hey, I am Tim Kiser, and this is the Profit Dare. Thank you for joining me today. I want to talk about taking a different concept. The concept is I got this idea from the book called The Six Thinking Hats. I had to read that book a long time ago in grad school, and I found it a really awesome book. One, it was easy to read. That wasn't very common then. But the concept is that we all have ways that we look at problems, and we have consistently only answer in a certain way based on our personality type. And so, like, some people are pessimistic by nature, and some people are optimistic by nature. So, in the idea in the six thinking hats, you would have to take on a different hat, a different role, so to speak, to solve a problem. So, if you're an optimistic person, you may be required to wear the pessimistic hat. So all of a sudden, your job is to say what could go wrong, not what could go right. And what that does is it kind of forces us outside of our comfort zone, and it helps us to better look at problems from a 360-degree issue. Now, how does that apply to small businesses or specifically side hustles? So side hustles are interesting because one person runs the whole show. And typically, with a side hustle or a small business, that one person is very optimistic. They just don't think failure is even an option, and they're ready to just press forward and conquer the world and make millions and billions and gazillions, and it's just nothing could go wrong. And that's a really good credit, really good idea and way to be, because sometimes if we don't have that kind of really overcoming mentality, we'll never start anything. So it's important that we do have that capacity. So we just think it's all great and all going to just perfect, things are going to fall into place all the time. It can be problematic though when things don't fall into place, and we think we can, by our optimistic and positive attitude, change everything. It's not always the case. So I've been in the business realm for a long time, and I've seen hundreds of businesses go under for various reasons. And often a small business starts because a business owner is typically an employee or has a skill set, and they're like, oh, I should start a business, and they do. And they're good at being positive, optimistic, and they're also good at, let's just use an example of someone's very mechanically inclined, and they can start an appliance repair store or appliance repair business, and they're good at repairing washers and dryers and ranges and refrigerators or whatever. And then they get the idea to start a business and actually sell them, and then now they're managing inventory, and they have customer expectations, and it's a lot different, right? So then new hats are introduced. So the first hat I want to talk about is the hat of the CEO. So if you have a side hustle or a small business, I don't care. I don't want to say that way. It doesn't matter what size the company is. If you're a one-person show, you are the CEO. Doesn't matter if you're not as big as Walmart and you have a small grocery store or an online store. If you're the one person and you're in charge and you're making all the decisions, guess what? You are the chief executive officer. Now, the chief executive officer is one, it's probably primarily vision-oriented, seeing the big picture, thinking things are not impossible. We can do anything. And it's casting that vision and marching forward and taking on new ground. That's the fun part, where it's just talking about stuff, and you're the face to the company externally, and you're just gonna make things happen. Most entrepreneurs are that capacity. Most of them, not all of them, because like Tim Cook from Apple is not like that. But there are many. Most of us who are starting, we're trying to break outside the pack of being in a business. We're just trading our time for a paycheck. When you're trying to start your own, you have to take risks, and the CEO takes risks. And so that person is the visionary of the business. We come into an issue when we stay in that mode at all times, when we're constantly talking about vision and not doing other things. Because what we want to do is provide either a service for people that's excellent, or a product that's made efficiently and effectively with the most productivity, and we're not having rework done. So I'm going to introduce you to the second hat. The first hat's the CEO hat. We all put that on, start a new business, we can do anything. All things are possible. We're going to see the invisible and do the impossible, right? But we actually have to do something So let's say restaurant. You may have this grand idea to start a restaurant, but then you start getting into the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty and down in the weeds of actually making an omelet or whatever the case may be. And we have to find the most efficient and effective way to make this happen, because profit margins are very thin in small businesses and most businesses. If there is a large amount of money to be had in those, someone's going to come in and swoop in and take over and try to crowd you out, and you're inviting competition in. So when you have businesses that are smaller, or we're trying to do it, and there's a lot of competition, it's important, incumbent upon us to actually find better ways to do things with less, so we can actually make money. Because if we don't make money, we won't stay in business. So the chief operating officer is the other hat. So sometimes this perfectly optimistic person has to put on a different hat, and when they do, they have to say, how can I make this process better? How can we, improve our productivity and make things quicker, better, faster, and squeeze out the competition and protect our profit margins? That's the chief operating officer. They're more the internal facing. So where the CEO gives the vision, the CEO takes the vision and runs with it. Kind of a thankless job, but it's really important. So if you're a one-person show, sometimes you need to tap the brakes and not just talk about shouting to the rooftops how great your idea is, but say, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to get better at what we're doing. 3, the chief financial officer. And this is where most businesses fail. Most businesses fail because they run out of money. Boom, the end. And they may run out of money for different reasons, but a lot of times because we're so optimistic, CEOs, that we think we can't fail, we take on projects that we have no business taking on. We have no idea what the payback time is. We have no idea what the return on investment is. We just think we just can't fail with this idea. And the process is we do this work, we're paying employees or whatever, and it's not making any money. It costs us more money to do it than it does to not do it. So we have to be able to know when to do certain things. Let me ask you, small business owner or side hustler, do you know what your current financial position is? Do you know what assets and liabilities and equity is? Do you know the net worth of your business? Do you know if you're profitable or not? Do you know what your revenue and expenses are and profitability, or not profitable? Are you unprofitable? Do you know that? Do you even know what a balance sheet is? Do you even know what an income statement is? Have you ever even looked at a cash flow statement? Those things, and it doesn't, if you're one person and your revenue is $50,000 a year, you still are a legitimate business, and you need to know if you're profitable or not. Uncle Sam wants to know, and he's not giving you breaks for that kind of stuff. So it's important for us to understand the financial side of that. So do some extra work. We'll do more videos in this, and check out our website, The Profit Dare, and there could be some articles there concerning this. But it's important for side hustlers to treat their business like a business, to actually do it like that. I think even individual families should treat their personal finances like a business. That's why I call it mind your own business. And it's you got to treat. If you don't treat it like a business, no one else will either, right? So fourth hat I want to talk about is the chief marketing officer or the chief sales officer. Contrary to popular belief, sales just don't fall through the sky. They don't just drop down on us and fall in our lap. It's hard to get sales because most of the easy ideas are taken, and there's people in business already who have a great reputation. And if you're trying to make headway in there, you better do something that separates you from the pack. And it can't just be lowering your prices, because that's not sustainable. So you need to have an idea on how to market your product or your service and find a way. If you're depending on family and word of mouth, it helps a little bit, but trust me, it's not their job to market your business. It's your job. So side hustler, small business owner, find a way to market your business. Find a way to create new sales. Are you always knocking on doors and talking to somebody about your business, or are you just simply expecting, to put something out on Facebook and people go, oh my God, that's such a great idea. I never thought of that before. I need to give you my money. It doesn't happen that way. So chief marketing officer, chief risk officer. This is the one who's just not very popular, because a chief risk officer is the person who asks what could go wrong, and when it goes wrong, how are we going to make sure we don't get sideswiped by it. So we have to think through areas of risk And every business has it. Let's say you're selling widgets and you're creating them, and all of a sudden this store calls you and says, hey, I want 500 of your widgets. And you're like, oh my God, 500. And you ship them 500 widgets, and it costs you money in inventory and raw materials and wages and all this stuff. You delivered them, you boxed them, and they took them, and they got 30 days 30 days terms to pay you, because that's what it is like in the business world. And they don't pay you. What are you going to do now? Did you even think that was possible? Do you think people won't pay you? It happens. What if someone slips and falls at your business and busts their keister? I mean, there's a lot of risks that happen. Insurance, all these things that we don't like to think about, because we're usually wearing the CEO hat that's everything's optimistic. Everything is rainbows and unicorns and, peaches and cream. And it's not like that in the real world. You need to sometimes put on that pessimistic chief risk officer hat and kind of do the stuff that no one else wants to do. Last one we're talking about today is the Chief Human Resources Officer. Now, we already talked about you being one person. So how do I need a Chief Human Resources Officer? Well, you're probably going to outsource a lot of work. You, as a one-person show, are probably going to actually have to hire people to do things and not hire a quote-unquote employee. But you need to treat these people like they're employees. You need not just take anybody in and accept mediocre work or high prices. You need to scrutinize who you're bringing in to outsource it. You're probably going to outsource your accounting or your bookkeeping, legal stuff. I mean, these are really important things to outsource. But you don't just, look on, Facebook Marketplace and find out who's out there as the newest attorney in town. I mean, you need to actually do some research and interviewing and talk to people and handle things well. And then when you start building your business and you need to hire people and you need to expand it and get benefits, you have to think that way, because most likely you're not going to have a human resources officer in your business. That's going to be you. But you better think differently when you're the human resources person than when you are the chief executive officer, or when you're the chief financial officer, or you're the chief risk officer. Chief risk officer, you're like, we're not hiring anybody because they'll all sue us. That's just the mentality you had to have. But it's important to don each one of those hats, think through things differently than you normally would, and get outside counsel when you can to help through these problems. And please, by all means, treat your side hustle like a business, and it is a business. So you need to do that, right? So, hey, I'm Tim Kiser. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't seen this book before, The Profit Dare, it's a book I wrote a couple years ago. It's a fantastic faith-based book on personal finance. It's blessed hundreds of people. Maybe you'll be one of them too. If you get a chance, check out the website, The Profit Dare, and I will see you soon again with a new video.